Family, welcome to another exciting edition of A Shot of Wrestling, The Interviews. If you have not done so already, follow us on all forms of social media at A Shot of Wrestling on Facebook and Instagram, and Shot of Wrestling No A on Twitter. You can contact us via email at inbox@ashotofwrestling.com or dial it up 619-343-3005 and leave your comments.
619, how'd you get that area?
Oh shit, 619. Now, by the sound of it, looks like the person we're going to talk to today is already getting ready to come on. So let's get right to it. We say it all the time. Wrestling brings us together, and today is no different. Today, we're honored to be joined by Brian Pillman Jr. How are you? And welcome to A Shot of Wrestling.
The honor is mine, brother.
It's such a pleasure to actually get a chance to talk to you. We've been kind of Instagram messaging each other for a little bit, but you have a crazy schedule, right?
Oh yeah, all the time. Always traveling. I like to be home for a few days and really just enjoy it. But tonight I'm going to be heading up to New York City. I'm going to visit the woman for a few days, and then I've got a match on Saturday against Dan Moff, and then on the 20th or so, we're going to head back down here. I'm going to bring my woman with me, and we're going to start our little family here in good old northern Kentucky, Cincinnati.
Interesting. So wait a second. Yeah. So you guys have a long distance relationship? How long have you guys been going out?
Yeah, so I actually met her at Lance Storm Academy, the Calgary training grounds, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And we really hit it off in the first week of practice, as is expected, because I'm the best looking guy in there.
Of course.
She was the best looking girl in there. There's about 3 or 4 girls at the beginning, and one of them was really, really fragile, wasn't really cut out for the job, and quit real early. But another one of them was like a superstar. She was she was jacked to the gills. She was athletic. She could move. She was something special. She was blonde, and she was a power lifter. We were thinking she was going to the WWE, but she ended up quitting about halfway through the class because of the concerns on her body and stuff and her age. She was around 28. That's a little old for a female to start the business. And she wanted to go be a lawyer. She was already in law school and stuff, and just decided it was going to be more cost efficient to do that, and then just stick to her powerlifting stuff for fun. So this was a prime example of a woman who would have been very successful in our business, but decided it wasn't for her. So.
Before you got into training, you had like a full 9 to 5, kind of one of those boring things that a lot of adults have.
Yeah.
You went the other way. You went from the extreme of the 9 to 5 to training. Was there one thing that you remember of being like, you know what, I just need to go and pursue this?
Yeah, it was just so much growing up with the internet and the ability for the fans to connect to me and express that interest and that demand. And it all really started to pique my interest once I was building like a more of like a fitness, yoga, like social media following,
Mm-hmm.
And that's when people were like, "Oh, damn, you look really good." And then they were like, "Oh, well, your name's Brian Pillman. Are you related to the wrestler?" And then it was like, "Why aren't you wrestling?" And then it was like, "Because I'm a nerd that plays video games on it. What's IT?" And then I just slowly started working more towards a healthy, fit, more masculine lifestyle as opposed to the sedentary gaming and just drinking and doing, just chilling lifestyle. So Gotcha. Wrestling has really benefited my life in a million more ways than one. So
your shoot job before wrestling, is there anything that you still find like skills that are useful to wrestling today?
Yeah, definitely my education in college and stuff has helped. My shoot job was very much dealing with a lot of people all the time. I kind of already had the skills going into that job, but I definitely learned how, problem solving techniques. Basically, I worked for a company that had developed software for car dealerships all around the Western Hemisphere. And it was my job to clean up or fix any bugs that were related to the database of the accounting databases. And, you know, sometimes it would be some pretty trivial stuff that people that work in car dealerships aren't very tech savvy. So I'd just walk them through that. But sometimes it would be a very technical, code-based, really find and search and destroy type operations that were very rigorous and that were very challenging. But yeah, definitely just being very savvy with technology has helped me in wrestling tenfold. You know, so many people that might not utilize their social media to the greatest. I mean, I tell you, man, you could do every move in the book, triple moonsault, all this. You could be the best wrestler ever, but if you don't have a personality or if you can't go onto social media and market yourself, then you're not going to succeed in today's land. I know guys, I've never even seen them wrestle. I haven't seen one match of theirs, but their social media is so entertaining, and they get their character across and their promos. And I'm just like, I'd book them. I wouldn't give a damn if their match was the shits. If they sold a fucking 100 tickets because of their Twitter and they go out there and, you know, they put on an okay passable match, you know, and the people go home happy at the end of the day because the main event was fire, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't give a damn, you know. But if you're, you know, if you're just keep to yourself and don't get out there and interact with the fans and make them want to buy a ticket, I don't care how many moonsaults you can do. And that kind of, like I said, that kind of gets into how I'm looking at the business. And if not saying I guaranteed will, but probably down the road, we'll start getting into the promoting and aspect of these things. Because like I said, I have a degree in business and in technology. So there's nothing stopping me from starting up a promotion and things like that. So, you know, it's just one of those things where if you're going to sell tickets and draw, and then you're a commodity in today's world.
Now, you mentioned the boom, obviously, of social media is definitely progressing a lot of the careers of a lot of the professional wrestlers out there because, like you said, it allows people to connect with you. One of the things that just sparked my interest right now, you consider yourself a good-looking guy, a catch, if anything. Have you ever, before your girl, explored like that social media dating? Did anybody slide into your DMs?
Yeah, so, I've used Tinder in the past to some success. I actually met a girl on there, really beautiful, dated her for about a year. So, yeah, I mean, I'm no stranger to the online dating. It was definitely very useful in college and stuff. But as I grow older, I find that the best approach is an in-person approach. And my relationship today started with a nice, very personal greeting and in a very, very fun environment at the Lance Storm Academy. And I think that's why we're still together is we've just had so many realistic memories together. We don't text each other all the time. You know, we don't Snapchat as much as you would think. You know, we're very personal. We like to call each other or do like a video chat, you know. So as much as we can limit the miscommunication and just keep our body language cues in touch, because there's so much benefit to be gained from technology, but there's also so much that is lost from technology and that interpersonal relationships. And that's why I told her, I was like, we can't do this long distance any longer, so it's either one of us is going to have to give. I'd like you to move down here and we can work this indie circuit in the Midwest. It's a lot more forgiving with the bookings and the travel. I know it's a little more cutthroat up in the Northeast. There's a lot less spots.
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a little bit. I mean, so your girl, she's in the business as well?
Yeah, she is just now coming up, making a name for herself. She was originally trained by Johnny Rods.
Oh, yeah.
As you know,
our intern used to train there as well.
Yeah, Dreamer is trained with her, and then the Dudley Boys, and to name a few. And, she got her kind of her beginner breaking in kind of training there, but she was ready for a more intermediate, thorough training. So she went up to Lance Storm School, and I think that was the perfect thing for her to work on her psychology and her structuring of a match and her physical abilities to really test herself, because there was a few challenges that she faced up there that she wasn't comfortable with. But I think as soon as you lose that fear, it's like me. Like I was always afraid of doing dives. But now I love doing dives, so I'm just like, screw it, right?
Yeah. Who are your inspirations growing up? Who are some of the people that you learn from that you study to try to build into your repertoire?
Yeah, as far as growing up, I wasn't that big of a wrestling fan growing up, but in these past couple of years, because I've been wrestling matches starting, from December 31st, 2017. So it's been one whole year. 2018, I just had about 100 matches. But as far as it was about a year before that I had started like studying, because I trained with Lance for 3 months. But before I even went to Lance's, I went down to Rip Rogers' little school and worked with him a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So at least I had a little bit of experience before I went through a full kind of course, So I want to say I started like really learning about the business in February 2017.
Yeah.
So it's been about 2 years that I've been like looking into it, And I want to say a lot of guys that really, I like to look at guys that are, the full package deal. I'm not trying to be some technical wizard that has no charisma. I'm not trying to be some flippy spot monkey dude that can't cut a promo, but I'm also not trying to be some clunky, clumsy asshole that just talks crap and juices up. You know what I mean? I'm trying to be a good, well-rounded guy. And I think with my body type, being around 5'10 and a half, 5'11 on a good day, 6 foot on a great day. Sometimes I'm 6 foot. We'll go ahead and say 6 foot for the kayfabe
It
status.
sounds good.
Yeah, and so I like to look at guys like AJ Styles, guys like Chris Jericho, guys like Kenny Omega. So in my studies and going through, and even Cody Rhodes, just such a good package of a wrestler. He's such a good character that he gets away with doing less, in the ring, and he's very technical on the mat. So it's like that's kind of where he shines. Guys like that, guys that are larger than life, guys that they don't need to do all the crazy acrobatic stuff. So when they do it, it has a huge reaction, right? It's not just their whole arsenal, right? They're really saving those moments for when it matters, when it counts. They can cut promos. They look great. Good bodied guys. So much of our business is being lost with people that don't want to train really hard in the gym. It's like they'd rather sit at home and play Fortnite. And I'm kind of the old school of thought that the best looking guys need to be out there. You need to look like a pro athlete in order to fully suspend the disbelief in that. So.
Yeah, you gotta separate
Jericho's
yourself.
Been a great help. Like I said, I did the podcast with Jericho, and even before we even started recording, we were chatting it up for a solid hour. So it's like we had plenty to go over, and he gave me some great advice. Lance Storm, so many of the moves that he taught me in training, I feel like he was teaching the training class, but every now and then he'd sneak in like a move or like something that he wanted me to do, but he would like show the whole class anyways,
Yeah.
It was like a weird thing where it was like, all right, Pillman, like you should do this because no one else does it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just going to teach it to everyone. So it doesn't seem like I'm focusing just on you.
Uh-huh.
But now that I look back and like the way my body so fluidly does these things that I'm like, oh, cause like, I'll forget, like somebody will ask me what I want to do here. And like, I'll draw a blank, but then I'll just think back to training. I'm like, what would Lance tell me to do here? Like
Interesting. Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, it's perfect for who I am and everything. So it's like he inadvertently provided me with a move set that was unique. It was kind of like a take on like the classic Canadian style, but it's so much stuff that people aren't doing today that it looks new and innovative in a way. So
now there's a lot of people, because you're in a very interesting situation where your name carries so much weight, and you've only had just about 100 matches, but you're a draw. People want to see you.
Yeah.
But it must be a little bit of a disadvantage because here you are starting your career, and are you being put in matches that you're not ready for just yet?
Yeah, it definitely was a big challenge at first, especially when I legitimately didn't know what the hell was going on. But I could say, and honestly, just being injured, if it wasn't for my 2 injuries, I would have had probably 150, almost 200 matches this year.
Wow.
But my injury, which was suspected to put me out for 5 to 6 months, only held on to me for about 3 months because I trained so hard to come back. So I really shortened that injury time, got back in the ring. God bless to the promoters in the United States that still brought me in when I was injured, because like you said, it was such a draw to them.
Yeah.
That even if I came in and cut a promo and did a storyline angle to build to the next show, it was a huge boon. for the tickets and for the build of the angle and stuff. So that's one thing that helped me enhance my promo skills, was just being injured and being forced into that, right? So you're like, oh shit, I got to deliver. Like, they're paying me, sometimes they'd pay me half, or they'd still even pay me the full rate just to come in and really build into something.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I tore my PCL, and that set me out for 3 months, and then I tore my AC joint in my left shoulder, which only set me out 3 weeks. But even during those 3 weeks, I was still on the road, still cutting promos. But yeah, I think my strengths at the beginning, I was always a natural promo. I was always a natural talker. I mean, you can look at my podcasts from like the first week of me wrestling. You know what I mean? I've always been good interacting with the fans and with people, and telling stories. I've always been a good storyteller. But just up until recently, I'm getting to work guys like Chase Owens, guys that like pushed me to the next level and really forced me to put my working boots on. And that's finally, after 1 year, I can finally say I'm very comfortable in the ring with who I am and what I'm doing. Anybody that says that they're good at this before that first year mark, or that claims to be better than, they're all bullshitting you, because this is a very hard, very tough job, and I won't claim to be great at this, at least for another 3 or 4 years, but I can at least say, after 100 matches in 1 year in this business, working some of the best talent, it's very hard to not get pretty good. It's really hard to not learn.
Yeah.
When you're in the ring with guys like Matt Sydal and Joey Janela, and Joey Janela was my 3rd match, right?
Oh, wow.
Matt Sydal was like my 10th match. So I had no idea what was going on, and the crowd reactions were so like blaring. It was like, oh, just me being in the ring was a huge pop. So it was like, I didn't really know what I was doing was good or bad, because the crowd was just gonna pop for me anyways. You know what I mean? So it was sort of a double-edged sword there, where I could do something that was the total shits. But when you're over, it's not the shits, right? So that's where the artistic, comes in. It's like, oh, is this good or is it bad? Usually the crowd will tell you, but it took a lot of the veterans, it took a lot of the guys to be like, hey man, if you did this in this town, it probably would have, got shat on, but because we're here and you're Pillman Jr., it was super over. So just keep that in mind. But after about a year now, working in different towns, I've worked for crowds that, you couldn't get a peep out of them. I've worked in front of 5 people. I've worked in front of 2,000 people. So I'm starting to realize what gets a good pop and what doesn't, and really getting used to the science of this business. So
yeah, and along the way, there must be a lot of people that you could lean on for advice. Who are those trusted people?
It's crazy. I was just walking out of the gym and just finished my set. So there was no better time for Stone Cold Steve Austin to give me a call.
Shit. Okay.
Yeah, and he's a good mentor for me, as far as like the long term and the business and how I'm gonna make decisions on contracts and drawing money and stuff like that. So I don't talk to Steve necessarily about moves or what should I do in this match. It's more of my long term development. Steve is a great mentor for that. He was always a great friend of my father's. As I'm sitting here, there's this picture I still need to hang up. It's on my kitchen table, but it's of him and my dad holding the tag championship belts. So I need to hang that up on my wall. The Hollywood Blondes. Maybe put it in my bathroom, so when I'm taking a dump, I can look up at these legends. But yeah, Steve is definitely a long-term coach. He called me after my injury, and he said some words of advice. He said, it's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll, buddy. And it's like, I'm feeling that right now. I had a match in Chicago about a week ago, and working with some guys I really trusted and liked, but there was a little bit of laziness and or miscommunication that resulted in my knee being hyperextended. So it's a little sore right now, but it's one of those things where I think it just hyperextended because it was already loose and tore previously. I don't think it like re-injured anything. It just kind of has more mobility now. So it's just that mobility took place. But yeah, it's one of those things. Steve is he's obviously an expert on knees.
Of course.
Stuff like that. So he was explaining to me all the different things about the knees and things. And luckily my right knee is in great shape, and we can continue to do things. I want to give a lot of credit to Low Key. Low Key is an incredible mentor of mine. He does not bullshit me at all. He blows up zero smoke up my ass. Lots of guys will try to manipulate me or talk to me in a way that's like, oh, they're hot and then they're cold and they're my buddy, but then they're not, or I'll confide in a guy and then they'll go tell somebody else behind my back. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm starting to realize who's really legit and who's not. It doesn't take long for me to see through people because I grew up in an environment surrounded by manipulation and drugs and things. So
Yeah.
I've got some street smarts on me, and a lot of these guys who think they can fool me or take advantage of me and get me to do work for them for little to no money. I'm not buying it. I'm not going to whore out my name or my father's name for people unless they're actually really truly my friend and they're really going to help me out.
Yeah, no, for sure. Now, speaking of your father, he passed away while you were very young. How was it growing up without that father figure?
Oh, it was tough, but it made me who I am today. I don't think I have a lot of friends that they grew up with dads and they grew up with parents that either neglected them or their parents got divorced, and they're not in any better shape than me. So one of the biggest strengths and or weaknesses, I guess, of my life is that because I didn't have a father, I never answered to anybody. I didn't answer to my mother. I didn't answer to my aunt or my uncle. I didn't answer to the principal at the school. I didn't answer to anybody. It was the closest thing I had to an authority figure was my football coaches because I respected them very highly because they were in charge of me in the sport that I was playing. And I wanted to succeed at that sport. I wanted to make my father proud. He was a very successful football player. So it was almost an extension. The football coaches were almost an extension of my father in that way.
Yeah.
And I looked to them for advice and things like that. I had a very wise lacrosse coach that he left me with I quit the team actually of lacrosse because it wasn't the sport that I had kind of thought it was. It wasn't as physical as I had hoped, and I was getting into trouble with the referees and things, just being way too physical. I ended up in the penalty box, and it was hurting the team. So I had to leave, and also didn't want to pay that private school tuition, which is obviously absurd.
Yeah.
But he left me with a quote. It was, "You cannot stress out about the things that you cannot control." And that was a very solid quote for me because so often I was doing just that, I can't, they can't believe the government or the weather. It's like, I'm going to be late for class. And it's like, or, just little things that people get on social media and they rile up about.
For sure.
But in reality, they have no way of controlling that. But then they go and complain about their everyday life, they're depressed, this, that, and the other. But those are things you can control. So it's sad to see our society turn into just that, where it's like we have a voice, we have an outlet with social media so that we can complain. So that people just get addicted to complaining and then nothing gets done.
No, yeah. There's a quote, I don't know where I heard it from or if it's just something that I've adapted throughout the years that's very similar to that, where it's like, you can't control what other people do, but you can control how you react to it,
Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier you were speaking with Chris Jericho before we got on the phone, and a lot of the things that are going on in the world of wrestling in these last few weeks have involved Chris with AEW. What are your thoughts about the landscape of professional wrestling right now, and is AEW in your future?
I think I'm going to be a major player in these next 4 or 5 years as far as wrestling goes. It's hard because now the decision-making process is now broken up into some different leagues and some different contracts, where I would have thought, before I broke in, at least a few years ago, there was only one option, and that was to go wrestle for the WWE. So now that I've got a little more bargaining power, I might not want to go to the WWE. It's not just like, come down to the Performance Center and I have to say yes,
Right.
I might be able to go in there and take a look at a contract and maybe maybe discuss a few things about it instead of just taking whatever they offer me. So every it's a wrestler's game right now. Everybody's got bargaining power. The fans clearly have bargaining power and buying power. The fans are better than they've ever been. The workers are better than they've ever been.
Yeah.
And it's a saturated, competitive market. That's why there's so many promotions that are filling up with talent, because we just have so much of the talent. It's definitely hard for a wrestling fan to consume all of the content. So that creates competition. If you only have an hour in the evening, each evening, to watch wrestling, you're going to have to decide which wrestling you're going to watch. Are you going to watch New Japan on their network? Are you going to watch WWE Network? Are you going to go to YouTube and watch MLW and see the New Heart Foundation? Are you going to watch Impact for Killer Cross and the things that he's doing over there? Or are you going to watch this new All Elite Wrestling, which is very exciting? So luckily, my contract doesn't prohibit me from working for All Elite, as long as there are no date conflicts, and hopefully there won't be. I know going into May, it's definitely a possibility to be on that show, but don't hold me to it. We're still in talks. I would love to work with Cody. I would love to work with the Bucks. I've met Cody about 3 times. And every time I've met him, it's like we've been best friends forever. There's like a secret bond between legacy wrestlers.
Is there?
I know it sounds like super corny, but there really is. Like every time you always know who they are, and they always know who you are. You don't really have to introduce yourself. It's because we do have it different. We do have a lot of things thrown our way, so we kind of understand how each other has to deal with those different obstacles that others don't have to deal with, those different high-pressure situations, being put into, like you said earlier, like a high-profile match before you're ready, and just not wanting, doing everything in your power not to F it up. And I'm very blessed to be working with a company like MLW, where they're sort of a mid-range company. They're like the stakes are high, but they're not. I'm not obliterated by the pressure. So I'm very strong at the TV and the promo stuff, and they really emphasize me in that role. Right? They don't got me going out there doing Canadian destroyers and stuff and things I'm not comfortable with.
Right.
They've got me cutting promos. They've got me up there for 3 days of tapings. Doing some brawls throughout the venue, really cool storytelling things.
Yeah, no, I could totally get you're a great talker and you carry yourself with so much confidence. Is this something that was always in you?
Yeah, growing up, I always thought it was a good idea to attract attention toward myself. I always got in trouble in school, and part of that was just getting the pop from the other students and just showing the students just how far I was willing to push it.
Wow.
To either make them laugh or to get in trouble, and just see the limitations that the school had. And then once I was on the football team, and once you're in that kind of atmosphere, then you start getting into trouble as a group, and then everybody's influencing each other, and we're all having a good time. And then, and that's just how it is. It was one of those things where I was so well liked by the kids in school, and the teachers and the principals liked me too because of my natural charisma, that I kind of just got away with whatever I wanted. It was definitely just putting my Aunt Linda through certain stressful situations that I could have prevented and stuff like that, because, once I moved into her, a lot of my habits of always doing whatever I wanted.
Right.
And now that I have my own place here in Covington, Kentucky, I truly do have the freedom now to do what I want. But now that I have the freedom to do what I want, I'm more governed and reserved as ever, because I'm trying to build a serious home and a serious lifestyle that has discipline and structure. So it's almost gone full circle. You know what I'm saying?
How is the scene in Kentucky? Because I guess you and your girl had the option to either say Kentucky or New York. Why Kentucky?
Yeah, so I live in Cincinnati, or Covington, Kentucky, which is 8 minutes from downtown Cincinnati. And the pleasure of living here is that within a good 4 to 5 hour circle, there is a vast variety of independent shows to work on.
Gotcha.
Now, Kentucky specifically, no, you have to have your Kentucky license, and I think that kind of prohibits the growth of the sport here. They do random drug tests and things like that. But Kentucky's not bad. I mean, we have OVW, which is an hour and a half away.
Yeah.
So that's a training school right there. That's where I kind of got started with Rip Rogers, and Al Snow is now running that. That is a good starter place for people looking to get their start. It's not somewhere that I would work now because it's not somewhere I can make a living right now because I'm kind of past the school stage of it. But there is another school in Dayton, Ohio, so that's just an hour north. So we've already got two places here
Not
that
too
are
far.
just an hour. Yeah. And when I say an hour for a wrestler, that's like a walk down the road. It's super close. It's just down the street when you're about to get on a show and be in front of fans and have a good time. So Rockstar Pro Wrestling, which is every Wednesday. It's a weekly show that has training on Monday and Tuesday. So they have a little bit of a school atmosphere, but it is more so an indie than anything. They do bring in some high-level guys. They've brought in people from Europe, Bones from Germany. They brought in Joey Ryan, Zaya Brookside. They bring in all kinds of guys.
Yeah.
Necro Butcher.
Scene.
Necro Butcher now
shit.
lives in Dayton, so he's been helping us out recently with our shows. Lots of local like indie talent just waiting to break out. We got guys coming from Michigan, which brings me to my next point. Michigan, Detroit area is only 4 hours away. There's a plethora of mid-level,
too.
Yeah, mid-level indies. The Midwest is great, and then there's the crown jewel of them all, which is, like I said, in that 4 to 5 hour circle, which is Chicago. So when we have Chicago, we have high-level indies like AEW, the new up-and-coming Warrior Wrestling, which I had the honor to work for, and to have a angle and a match built around me, which was just such a privilege in such a high-level locker room. We're talking a locker room with Bandito, Brian Cage, the Lucha Brothers, Ray Phoenix, Pentagon, Dragon Lee, Rich Swann, and Andrew Everett. They opened the show with like a hot cruiserweight match. So this locker room, we got Tessa Blanchard in there, Jordan Grace, and they're bringing me in for a scramble match. You know what I mean? Like I'm like the sideshow there. Like I'm a small guy there. So. But, it's a pleasure to be in those high-level locker rooms. And then there's other locker rooms, whether it's in Chicago or dare I say, Tennessee is a good 4 hour drive. So really where I'm at right now in Cincinnati is the ultimate location. Did I mention Indianapolis is only 2 hours away? There's a number of indies over there with some young talent really coming up. So it's more so the cost of living is much lower in Cincinnati as compared to New York City or Philly or New Jersey. Yeah, so it's like, why am I going to go up there and have to compete with all those and the transportation costs to get around in New York and all that, the tolls, it'd be a miracle to make a profit off of all the bookings and stuff that I'd have to get to and stuff like that. But I do appreciate every opportunity that I get, like this weekend, going up to work for Pro Wrestling Magic. They're taking care of my trans and everything. Pat Buck has done great business with me. He's let me have one of my first matches at Create a Pro, which is a school, probably the best school outside of Lance Storm's in Canada is Create a Pro, I would say. If I didn't go train at Lance's, I would have definitely went to Create a Pro.
Yeah, they're banging out stars there for sure.
And then Wrestle Pro, which is the next level there. I got the chance to work there as well. So there's just so much talent, and it's kind of saturated up in that Northeast area where I feel like I have more to offer in this Midwest. I have more shows that I can really draw for and earn my pay. You know what I mean? So the shows in the Northeast, they might already be drawing pretty good without me. And I'm more or less just going to be another star in this on the Spangled Banner. Where around here I'm the star. So it also will benefit my girlfriend's career as she's at that level where she needs to have more mid-tier indies and stuff. She can't just be jumping on a high-level show up there, but slowly work her way towards Chicago and into those higher-level indies. It's easier to get to Florida from where I'm at. The flights out of CVG are just super cheap. I've had people fly me to Virginia, to Kansas.
Well, that's beneficial, I'm sure, for any booker.
I've had flights everywhere because CVG is an international hub. I just wrestled in Calgary, Alberta. I made my debut in the city that I trained in for Heart Legacy Wrestling. So there's a lot of opportunities, and being that I'm in a very central spot, it makes it easier to get to those opportunities, right?
Yeah. How does your family feel about you pursuing this career now after so many years not even touching it?
Well, yeah. So my aunt and sister, my sister Brittany and my aunt Linda were pretty much my close immediate family growing up. I never had a great relationship with my mom, but they're all very excited about it. My mom, even though my mom's a little wacko, she's happy about it. My aunt Linda is loves it. They all I actually just performed. And you talked about Kentucky. I actually just performed my first show in my hometown of Covington, Kentucky, just this past Saturday. It was at the Northern Wrestling Federation, very professional organization, ran by Roger Ruffin, who's a prestigious referee and in the WWF and things. And he has an entire federation that he has trained and built up. Guys like Wildcat, Chris Harris, The Abyss got their start here. So very big names have come out of here, and I just worked my first show in front of my family and all my friends.
Oh,
so
that's amazing.
They were all very happy about it. And my friends who, like I said, growing up playing sports, I've got some very charismatic, athletic friends who I think would make great wrestlers. But because, it's a little bit more of a gamble for them to drop their job in accounting or whatever it is they're doing that's making their living, to just drop that and then become an entrepreneur and to become a wrestler. Because that's one of the biggest things you got to accept is when you become a wrestler is that you are now a businessman and you have to deal with stuff.
I think in so many episodes of interviewing people, you are the first one to ever say getting into the business as a professional wrestler is like you're an entrepreneur. Everybody has talked about owning their own brand and branding, but there's so many things that you do have to learn, and
and I'm blessed. I have a degree. So.
That's crazy. And you're right. Did some thought go into your hairstyle?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely a functional decision. Lance Storm had explained to me in training that the mullet was a functional haircut. Yeah, it's the best of both worlds. You get all the selling and all the beauty of the hair, right? All the different things you can do with it, while also keeping it out of your face. So
hey.
I don't have to do the Seth Rollins and pull my hair back from my face every 5 seconds.
Right.
Which God, it drives me nuts every time he does that. I'm like, good Lord. I mean, it's natural. Even if you're in a fight, you're probably going to pull your hair back. But,
Do the ladies like it?
Yeah. Oh, the women love it. I haven't had to approach a girl in years. They've always come up to me and talked to me.
What's the worst pickup line you've ever gotten then?
Oh, is that your real hair? I'm like, no, it's a wig, bitch. You want to have sex? No, but just for my girlfriend, I always have to fight them off and tell them like, hey, I'm taken. My girlfriend's very beautiful, very respectful lady. So for all these women to come up to me, it's flattering and all, but I'm taking, ladies.
There you go. All right, you're off of Tinder. That's it. It's official.
Yeah.
I gotta say, it was early on in your career, around the first time that you had your match here in our area with Creative Pro was when I started recognizing your Instagram. And as soon as I saw you with the mullet, I have to say, this motherfucker is gonna get so much ass because of that hairdo. I was like, I may need to rock the mullet now. It's like, this motherfucker's bringing it back.
I'm bringing it back, yeah. I've already started what appears to be a massive wave of trend of this mullet. I've already started to see college football players, NFL players in my hometown of Cincinnati. The wide receiver for the Bengals has a mullet now. What's his name? Whatever.
Well, after a few years of the shitty man bun that I hated seeing, everybody had that shit.
I can't even watch an episode of NXT UK without wanting to absolutely puke because they all have the same haircut. And it's just, I laugh. I'm sorry, but we're in the business of entertainment. And if you want to be original, the last thing you should do is have a man bun and a beard.
Yeah.
That's like the last thing. Like if you're like waking up one day and you're a pro wrestler and if you look in the mirror and you have a beard and a man bun, guess what? Your first thing you do today is shave that shit off, get something else going because you're an idiot and you look like everybody else. Meanwhile, I've started a global phenomenon with the mullet. What's his name? The other famous rapper, Riff Raff, is now rocking a mullet. I guarantee he saw me wearing it first.
I can confirm that. I think he did see you wear it first. Yeah. Shot of Wrestling exclusive right there for you.
Thank you.
Obviously we've done a little research here before we got into our conversation. One of the things I found really interesting was that you were a frat guy. In college, you joined a fraternity. Now, Your boys here at A Shot of Wrestling are also frat boys. In New York, we joined Tau Epsilon Phi, and that's how our brotherhood kind of started and our friendship kind of developed. It's been like over 15 years now. What was your decision into joining a fraternity?
So I was always involved in sports and stuff. So really, I was just looking for the camaraderie. I had heard all the cool stories about the partying and things, and that's how I was in high school. I was a big partier, always looking for what are the boys up to, what are the boys doing. It's probably how I led myself into wrestling too, to be honest. Mm-hmm. But I quickly found out I was a junior in college already, so I was already finishing up by the time I started to join the Alpha Tau Omega fraternity. So after about a couple months, and then seeing all the different dues that they wanted us to pay, and all the responsibilities that was already tacked on to my schoolwork, being brought in with a bunch of freshmen who couldn't really hold their own, and it was just like, what? I've been there, done that. I've been the partier. I've done all this stuff in high school and in my first couple of years of college. I just decided it wasn't for me, especially with all the given extra responsibilities that I wouldn't even be able to complete before I graduated. Right. So it was like, what's the point? At this point, I'm already too behind on it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. A lot of people are attracted because of that party atmosphere. I was as well,
Yeah.
So we're wrapping up our time here. Is there anything that you want to let anyone know about Brian Pillman Jr. that they do not know already?
Well, I am an avid Smash Bros. Player.
No way.
And if you are in the New York City area this week, I would like to inquire about playing some Smash Brothers with you, because I got to get my weekly grind in as my Ganondorf is shaping up to be quite the threat. So if you got an issue, or you want to throw some money down on a game, I'd be more than happy to meet you wherever you want to meet up.
Is that one of your passions outside of the ring, Smash Brothers?
Oh yeah, you know me.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, fill us in. Just like me, I've been following your journey on social media and seen you on a couple of shows. But for those who are not privy to the information, where could we follow your journey?
Oh, yeah. I'm always available on Twitter at Flying Brian Jr. and Instagram at Flying Brian 41. I like to limit my activity on Facebook just because I feel like that app is it's just not my cup of tea, and there's only 5,000 limit of the friends. I get too many messages on Facebook. It's hard to sort through them all. But I get a lot of messages everywhere. I still am not caught up with them. So if you're still waiting to hear back from me, just wait a little bit longer. How about that?
Awesome. Brian, it was a pleasure talking to you. And we're not done with you yet. We have a few other things to take care of, pay the bills around here. So why don't you just hang around for last call?
You bet your butt. My name is Brian Pillman Jr., and you're going to want to stay tuned for Last Call.
Hey guys, this is former WCW wrestling star Glacier. Make sure you listen to A Shot of Wrestling on B+ Player Radio. New episodes drop every Monday. Make sure to tune in before blood runs cold on you.
Well, there you have it. Another great interview here on A Shot of Wrestling. But interviews, they're just part of the conversation. You can listen to our podcast weekly on B+ Player Radio, where our host, Michael J. Putty, goes over all the news and all the happenings that are going on in the world of professional wrestling, followed in with a little of cheers and heels about your favorite wrestling shows, whether it's Raw, SmackDown, Lucha Underground, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, whatever it is. You can listen to it weekly on A Shot of Wrestling on B+ Player Radio. I'd like to thank everybody who participates on A Shot of Wrestling, and follow us on all forms of social media. Continue to subscribe on YouTube, where you can hear the full interviews of all your favorite independent stars before they become national, international superstars. So for everybody who continues to support A Shot of Wrestling, thank you and good night.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time I need to announce it's last call at the bar.
Oh. All right, everybody, we have made it to the end of the episode, and it's my favorite part. It's last call, and still here with us, Brian Pillman Jr. Now, Brian, it's rapid fire questions. The first thing that comes to your mind is the first thing you should answer. Are you ready?
I was born ready.
No way we go. What is your favorite TV show?
Right now, Baki the Grappler.
Interesting. All right. Other than wrestling, what is your favorite sport?
Lacrosse.
What is your favorite adult beverage?
Beer. IPA.
Oh, which one?
We have a local Rheingeist Truth. It's very strong, very good.
Sweet. Who is your celebrity crush?
Natalie Portman.
Who was your
Mandy Rose?
Oh, too many people. Who was your markout wrestler growing up?
The Hardy Boys.
What was your New Year's resolution?
I don't have any because I'm always awesome all the time.
Can't argue with that. And finally, Brian, if you had to explain what wrestling was to someone who's never experienced it before, how would you explain it?
It is the art of combat.
All right, my man. Thank you so much for joining us on A Shot of Wrestling.
Yes, of course.
Hey, baby, I hear the bell ringing, hip tosses and body slams. Oh, my. And maybe you seem a bit confused. Yeah, baby, but I got you pinned. Ha, 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 ha. But I don't know what to do when I see them with that golden case. They're cashing it in. Authority all in my face. What is a man to do? Good night, everybody.